Hi everyone, I'm Yumu from Susan's family. Today, I'll teach you how to make a bunny ear hat set. This set includes two parts, the hat and the scarf. Let's start with the hat. The hat consists of the main part, the edging, the ears, and the ties. We will start the main part from the foundation chain. First, we will work back and forth, then crochet in rounds. During the process, you will need to switch colors. Several crochet stitches will be applied, and they are all marked on the chart. I won't list them all here. The crochet methods for different sizes of hats are similar. Now, I'll demonstrate the crochet method, using a child's size as an example. Start with a foundation chain. Take the corresponding yarn. The color of the swatch is random. For specific yarn, the color scheme and hook size, please refer to the detail page of our product and the paper instructions. Start by making a slip knot. Slightly tighten it, then crochet chain stitches. Don't make the chain too tight. The number of chains for the swatch is random. That's how you finish the foundation chain. Next, crochet the first row. Follow the chart from left to right. Start with 2 chain stitches as the turning chain for the half double crochet. This counts as 1 half double crochet, corresponding to this chain. In the 4th chain from the hook, pick up the top half loop and crochet 1 half double crochet. Continue picking up the top half loop of the chains, and crochet half double crochets accordingly. Finish this row. This completes the first row. Now, move on to the second row. Follow the chart from right to left. Start with 2 chain stitches as the turning chain. Turn the workpiece counterclockwise. The turning chain corresponds to the half double crochet below. Crochet 1 half double crochet into the next stitch on the left. Note that on the wrong side, the stitches are on the upper left. Do not crochet into the stitch under the turning chain. Continue picking up the stitches and crocheting half double crochets correspondingly. Finish this row. After completing the last stitch, crochet 1 half double crochet into the turning chain. Insert the hook into the top 2 strands of the chain stitch and crochet. Make sure not to skip this stitch. The second row is now complete. We will use the side with the clearer texture as the right side of the entire piece. This is the side where the beginning yarn tail is on the right. Continue to the third row. Start with 2 chain stitches as the turning chain. Turn the work. Work half double crochets into each stitch, starting from the second stitch. For the last stitch, work 1 half double crochet. Pick up the top 2 strands of the turning chain and crochet. The third row is now complete. For the next rows, from the 4th to the 6th, continue working back and forth using the same technique as the third row. Complete these rows. Now, let's move on to the 7th row. Start with 1 chain stitch as the turning chain for the single crochet. This does not count as 1 stitch. Turn the work. Now the wrong side is facing you. Fold the beginning of the row backward. In this row, you need to insert the hook into both the stitch from the 6th row and the chain stitch from the foundation chain. First, insert the hook into the last stitch of the 6th row and the corresponding chain stitch from the 1st row's turning chain. This is the insertion point for the half double crochet on the left side. The adjacent chain stitch. Pick up these 2 strands and crochet. Work 1 single crochet. Continue inserting the hook into the next adjacent stitch. And the corresponding chain stitch from the foundation chain. The remaining 2 strands. Are the insertion point for the half double crochet next to the turning chain. Work 1 single crochet. Repeat this process, working into each corresponding stitch. Pay attention to the insertion points to avoid mistakes. For the last stitch, insert the hook into the turning chain and crochet at the final chain stitch position. You can check the number of single crochets. It should match the number of foundation chains. Row 7 is completed. The fabric forms an overlapping effect. Continue with row 8. Start with 1 chain stitch as the turning chain. Turn the work. Pick up the stitches and work single crochets into each corresponding stitch. Row 8 is completed. Move on to row 9. Start with 1 chain stitch as the turning chain. Turn the work. Work 2 single crochets into the corresponding stitch. 3 chain stitches. Skip 3 stitches below. Work 1 single crochet. Continue with 3 chain stitches. Skip 3 stitches and work 1 single crochet. Continue working the sequence of 3 chain stitches and 1 single crochet. Pay attention to skip 3 stitches below for each chain stitch. Be mindful not to work the chain stitches too tight. Continue to complete this row. After the last 3 chain stitches are completed, skip 3 stitches. Work 2 single crochets into the corresponding stitch. Row 9 is completed. The next row requires switching colors. Cut the yarn here. Secure with 1 chain stitch. Stretch the loop. Leave a 5 cm tail and cut the yarn. Pull tight. Leave the yarn tail for now. You can weave it in when you crochet the edging. You can also hide it according to your preference along the texture. Now, work on row 10. Turn the work. Join the yarn at the last single crochet stitch of the previous row. Here, you can make a knot. Draw up a loop. Adjust it a bit. The yarn is joined. You can use this method whenever you need to join yarn. Start with 2 chain stitches. Work 1 half double crochet into the left stitch. Work 1 double crochet into the chain space. Then insert the hook under the next 3 chains. Work 1 double crochet into the middle stitch. Make sure to wrap the chain stitch together. When drawing through, be mindful to enlarge the loop. Ensure that the double crochet is level with the right side after completing it. Continue by inserting the hook into this chain space, and working 1 double crochet. Then work 1 chain stitch. Move on to the next chain space. Insert the hook. Work 1 double crochet. Then insert the hook into the middle stitch of the next 3 skip chains, and work 1 double crochet. Pay attention to wrapping the chain stitch. Enlarge the loop. Continue by inserting the hook into the hole and working 1 double crochet. 1 chain stitch. Follow this method for the rest. Work 3 double crochets in each chain space. Use 1 chain stitch as a transition between each group of double crochets. Continue to finish this row. After completing the last double crochet in the final chain space, work 2 half double crochets in the ending stitch. Row 10 is now complete. Move on to row 11. Start with 1 chain stitch. Turn the work. Work 1 single crochet. 2 chain stitches. Skip 2 stitches below. Work 1 single crochet. Follow the pattern from row 9. Work 3 chain stitches and 1 single crochet. Pay attention to working the single crochet in the middle stitch of each group of double crochets. Continue to finish this row. After completing the last 2 chain stitches, work 1 single crochet into the beginning chain. Row 11 is completed. Move on to row 12. Start with 2 chain stitches. Turn the work. Work 2 double crochets into the left chain space. One chain stitch. Next chain space position. Pick up the chain space and work 1 double crochet. Then insert the hook into the corresponding single crochet stitch from row 9 below. Work 1 double crochet. Wrap in the 2 rows of chain stitches below. Mindful of enlarging the loop. Work 1 double crochet into the chain space from the previous row. We consider these 3 double crochets as one double crochet group. The technique is similar to the double crochet group in row 10. Just the middle double crochet needs to be worked into the single crochet stitch 2 rows below. Continue with 1 chain stitch, 1 double crochet group. Pay attention to the middle double crochet. Insert the hook into the single crochet, stitch 2 rows below and work it. Continue to crochet the double crochet groups correspondingly, with 1 chain stitch as a transition. Finish this row. After completing the last double crochet group, 1 chain stitch. Hook 2 double crochets into the ending chain space. Hook 1/2 double crochet into the last stitch. Row 12 is completed. Row 13 is identical to row 9. At the end, fasten off the yarn. Everyone, refer to the pattern to complete it. Now, crochet row 14. Turn the work. Join the yarn. Start with 2 chain stitches. Hook 1/2 double crochet into the left stitch. Then, crochet 1 double crochet cluster. Finish with 1 chain stitch. You can see the double crochet cluster in this row. It matches the double crochet cluster in row 10. It is staggered from the cluster in row 12. Continue crocheting according to the pattern in row 12. After completing 2 half double crochets at the end, row 14 is finished. For rows 15 to 19, repeat the pattern from rows 11 to 14. And switch colors at the corresponding positions. This will create a staggered pattern. The technique for row 20 is similar to row 12, but the chain stitch position is replaced with a double crochet. Hook it into the single crochet stitch below. Pay attention not to hook into the wrong stitch while crocheting. After completing, fasten off the yarn. Refer to the previous demonstration and follow the chart to complete it. Now let's crochet round 21. I'll demonstrate using this small sample. Start crocheting in rounds from this circle on the right side of the fabric, which is the clearer texture side with the double crochet pattern. Pick up 2 strands from the previous rows, turning chain to join the yarn. Make 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. This counts as 1 double crochet. Work 8 more double crochets, picking up the stitches to correspond. You can weave in the yarn tail here as well. You can also weave it in later. Next, work 1 double crochet decrease, yarn over. Insert the hook into the front loop of the adjacent stitch. That's the loop closest to you. Continue inserting the hook into the front loop of the next stitch on the left. Draw the yarn through the first 2 loops. Yarn over again, and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat this 2 more times. The double crochet decrease is now completed. This method of only picking up the front loops is called an invisible decrease. All subsequent decreases should be worked using the invisible decrease technique. Continue crocheting the corresponding number of double crochets. Pay attention to starting from the complete stitch on the left side. Do not crochet into the stitch that has already been worked. Refer to the pattern chart for the specific number of double crochets. The stitch count for the sample swatch is random. I will demonstrate the invisible double crochet decrease technique again. Yarn over. Pick up the front loops of the next 2 stitches on the left. Work 1 double crochet. The invisible double crochet decrease is completed. Continue following the pattern chart to finish this round. After completing the last double crochet, work 1 slip stitch into the top of the beginning chain. Work 1 slip stitch. The joining slip stitch doesn't count as 1 stitch. Pull tight. Round 21 is now completed. You can try it on at this point. Check if it fits properly. If it's too loose or too tight, you can adjust your tension and recrochet this round. For the following rounds, continue to crochet and try it on as you go. Adjust your tension as needed to ensure a comfortable fit. Continue to crochet round 22. Start with 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. Correspond to the foundation chain below. Pick up the stitch and work a double crochet. Note that some of the left stitches may be puckered. Don't skip any stitches. Then work 1 double crochet decrease. Continue to follow the chart and crochet double crochets and double crochet decreases. Pay attention to the changes in the number of double crochets. Finish with a slip stitch. Round 22 is now completed. Next, crochet round 23. Slightly stretch the previous loops. Take out the hook and pause for a moment. Take the corresponding yarn for this round. Join the yarn in the second double crochet stitch from the left side of the beginning chain. Start with 1 special bobble stitch with 3 double crochets. First, make 3 chain stitches. In the same position, make 2 incomplete double crochets. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. The first stitch is complete. Continue with the second stitch. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. The second stitch is complete. Yarn over and draw through all the remaining loops in once. One special bobble stitch with 3 double crochets is done. Move on to 2 chain stitches. In the same insertion position below, make 1 bobble stitch with 3 double crochets. First, make 3 incomplete double crochets. Yarn over and draw through all the remaining loops in once. The bobble stitch with 3 double crochets is completed. From now on, we'll call it a bobble stitch. We will treat the stitches worked in this position as 1 bobble stitch pattern. Continue with 2 chain stitches. Skip 6 stitches below. Work 1 bobble stitch pattern in the next stitch. That means working 2 bobble stitches in the same position, with 2 chain stitches as a transition. After completing, continue with 2 chain stitches below. Skip 5 stitches and work 1 bobble stitch pattern. Follow the chart. Alternate between skipping 6 stitches and 5 stitches to work the bobble stitch patterns. With 2 chain stitches as a transition, finish this round. After completing the final 2 chain stitches, the number of skipped stitches below varies depending on the size. The sample here is not for reference. Everyone, please refer to the actual project in your hands. Cut the yarn. Round 23 is now completed. Next, work round 24. Start from the last hole of the previous round. Insert the hook into the loop of round 22 and work to the right side. Chain 1 to begin. Wrap the chain from the previous round together. Work 1 single crochet into the chain below. You can also wrap in any yarn tails. Wrap the chain as well. Continue with 2 chain stitches. Work 1 single crochet into the middle chain space of the puff stitch pattern. 2 chain stitches. Below is a chain space that is 6 stitches apart. Work 1 single crochet into the second double crochet. Pay attention to wrapping the chain. You can slightly stretch the loop. Keep this area flat overall. Hook into the empty spaces at the back. Wrap all the chains. Insert the hook into the corresponding stitch, in the empty space and work. I won't repeat this reminder from now on. Next, work 1 single crochet decrease. Use the invisible decrease method here. First, pick up the front loops of the next 2 stitches on the left side. Insert into the hole. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Yarn over and complete the single crochet. The single crochet decrease is completed. Continue with 1 single crochet in the next left stitch. Below, work a single crochet in the middle of the next puff stitch pattern. Both sides have 2 chain stitches for transition. Move to the next chain stitch position. Here, there are 5 stitches apart. Work 3 single crochets in the middle 3 stitches. Take a look. In this row, work 1 single crochet in the puff stitch pattern. Work 3 single crochets in the interval positions. Pay attention to the position where there are 6 stitches apart. In the middle, use the invisible decrease method to work the single crochet decrease. This creates an effect of 3 single crochets. Between each group of single crochets, there are 2 chain stitches for transition. Follow this method to complete this round. Note that all single crochet decreases are worked using the invisible decrease technique. After completing the last 2 single crochets, finish with a slip stitch in the starting single crochet stitch. Round 24 is now completed. Next, work round 25. Start with 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. Correspond to the single crochet stitch below. Work 1 double crochet in the left chain space. Work 1 half double crochet on the single crochet. Work 1 double crochet in the next space. Work 3 double crochets in the next 3 consecutive stitches. This round is done like this. Work 1 double crochet in each chain space. Work 1 half double crochet on the single crochet between the spaces. Work double crochets in the consecutive stitches. Continue to crochet the entire round. Finish with a slip stitch in the beginning chain. Round 25 is now completed. Stretch the loop and pause the crocheting. Now, crochet round 26. Join the yarn in the 5th stitch, from the left side of the beginning chain of the previous round. Work 1 puff stitch pattern. Note that the starting position uses a special puff stitch. After completing it, work 2 chain stitches. Then, skip 5 stitches and work another puff stitch pattern. This round consists of puff stitch patterns separated by 5 stitches. In between, use 2 chain stitches as a transition. The insertion point for the puff stitch pattern is approximately in the middle of the 3 single crochets of this round, corresponding to the stitch below. Continue to crochet the entire round. Finish with a slip stitch. Cut the yarn. Round 26 is now completed. Continue to crochet round 27. Go back to the loops of round 25. Crochet to the front. Make 1 chain stitch to start. Pay attention to also wrapping the chain stitch braid in this round. Then, following the technique from round 24, crochet 3 single crochets in the position where 5 stitches were skipped. Correspondingly, make 1 single crochet on the pattern. Continue with 1 single crochet on the pattern. Use 2 chain stitches as a transition on either side. Repeat this process to complete the entire round. Finish with a slip stitch. That completes round 27. For round 28, follow the technique from round 25. Continue crocheting in rounds with double crochets and decrease at the corresponding positions. The method is similar to round 21. Pay attention to the changes in the number of stitches between decreases. All double crochet decreases are done using the invisible decrease method. Refer to the previous demonstration for details. Refer to the chart to complete the remaining rounds. Start the final round with 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. Then pick up stitches on the left side and crochet double crochets. The last slip stitch should be worked into the starting double crochet stitch. Pull tight. After completing, stretch the loop. Leave a 15 cm tail and cut the yarn to close the opening. Thread the yarn needle. Pass it through the front loops of the last round stitches. Then pull tight. Ensure the fabric is flat and neat. If you don't want any holes, you can cross-stitch a few stitches to cover the holes. Then add a few more stitches. Tie off and weave in the ends. You can weave in a few more stitches for security. Trim excess tails. Now the main part is done. Next, let's learn how to crochet the edging. Crochet a row of single crochets around the opening of the main part. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Hold the opening of the main part facing you, on the right side. Join the yarn at the edge stitch of the third row on this side. Right here. If you can't find the exact spot, pick up about 2 strands of yarn at this corner position. Chain 1 to start. Work 1 single crochet in the same position. Then insert the hook into the edges of both the front and back pieces. Correspondingly make 4 single crochets. The specific insertion position can be determined based on the actual situation. Pay attention to weaving in the yarn tails. When you reach the edge of these 3 rows of single crochets, correspondingly make 3 single crochets. Weave in the yarn tails as you go. At the edge of 2 chain stitches, correspondingly make 2 single crochets. Continue working single crochets along the edge. Refer to the pattern chart for the specific insertion positions of the single crochets. You can also adjust based on the actual situation. Ensure that the fabric is flat and looks neat after completing it. When finish the 3 chains of beginning chain in the 21st round. Continue crocheting along the other edge. Fasten off the yarn when finished. Hide the yarn tails on the wrong side. Hide all remaining yarn tails on the wrong side as well. That concludes the explanation of crocheting the edging. Next, we will learn how to crochet the ears. There are 2 ears in total. Both are made using the magic ring method. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. Secure it to the corresponding position on the main piece when finished. Before you start crocheting, let's familiarize ourselves with the chart. In the chart, our plus number indicates the round number. The stitch instructions column describes the stitches and increases or decreases when working the current round. The total stitches column indicates the total number of stitches for the current round. The total number of stitches after completing all the crocheting. Now, please watch as I demonstrate the specific crocheting method. The starting point in the chart is indicated by the adjustable magic ring method. Start with an adjustable magic ring. Next, crochet the first round. Our 1 is 8x. The number before x indicates how many stitches to work in that stitch pattern. Here, it means to crochet 8 single crochets, SC, into the magic ring. First, crochet 1 chain stitch as the turning chain for the single crochet. This turning chain is not marked in the chart. In actual practice, when crocheting in rounds, you always need to start with a turning chain. Then, crochet 8 single crochets, SC, into the magic ring. After completing them, check the stitch count. The total number of stitches for each round is marked in the chart. I won't repeat this reminder for subsequent rounds. Tighten the magic ring. Finally, work 1 slip stitch, SL street, into the first single crochet stitch. The joining slip stitch doesn't count as 1 stitch. Make sure to pull it tight. The slip stitch is not indicated in the chart. When crocheting in rounds, always finish by joining with a slip stitch and pull it tight. This completes the first round. We will use the side with the clearer texture as the right side. Next, move on to the second round. Start with 3 chain stitches as the turning chain. Work 1 double crochet, DC, into the slip stitch position. Pull the yarn tail tight. Then, work 1 double crochet increase, DC 2 in 1, into the next stitch. That means working 2 double crochets into the same stitch. The double crochet increase is completed. Continue picking up stitches and corresponding them to work double crochet increases. After completing, join with a slip stitch at the top of the turning chain. The second round is complete. Move on to the third round. Start with 3 chain stitches as the turning chain. Work 1 double crochet increase, DC 2 in 1, into the next stitch. Below is FV times 7. The parentheses indicate a group. Times a few indicates the number of times to repeat the pattern. Work 1 double crochet. 1 double crochet increase. One FV is completed. Continue with another group. Work 1 double crochet. 1 double crochet increase. The second group is completed. Continue to crochet the remaining groups. Finish with a slip stitch. Turn the right side to the outside. The third round is complete. For the following rounds, continue crocheting in rounds following the chart. The method is similar to the third round. Crochet evenly. This means one stitch to another. Complete it. Start decreasing on the 12th round. Use the invisible decrease technique for all decreases. Follow the same crochet technique as before. Everyone, follow the chart and crochet all the rounds. After completing the last round, leave a 30 cm yarn tail, and cut the yarn. Insert a bit of the same color yarn into the fabric. Press it flat along the position of the beginning chain. Make sure the fabric has a slight thickness. Don't stuff too much. This completes one ear. Hook the other ear using the same method. Next, sew the ears onto the main body. Position the edging side towards you. Center it. Locate the closing point of the main body. About 3 to 4 centimeters below that point. Leave an interval of about 3.5 centimeters between the ears. Match and sew the two ears together. Please watch me demonstrate the specific sewing method. Here, I will sew the right ear first. Thread the yarn tail through the sewing needle. Fold the opening slightly. Try to create a slight dent at the front. Secure it slightly. Then place it in the corresponding position. Sew it to the main body. Pay attention to keeping the ears upright. You can adjust the shape according to your preference. Finally, tie off and weave in the ends. Sew the other ear symmetrically. That concludes the explanation for the ears. Next, we'll learn how to attach the ties. First, crochet the cord. Then, secure the pom-pom to the main body. The cord is started with a chain ring method. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific crochet method. Start with a slip knot. Begin by leaving a 20 cm tail for sewing. Then, chain 6. Fold it in half, with the braid texture facing you. Insert the hook into the back loop of the first chain stitch. Slip stitch. The starting chain is complete. Move on to the first round. Start with 3 chain stitches as the turning chain. Correspondingly insert the hook into the back loop of this chain stitch. Continue picking up the back loops and crochet 5 double crochets. Place the textured right side facing out. Finish with a slip stitch in the top of the turning chain. Weave the reserved yarn tail to the right side. The first round is complete. Continue crocheting in rounds with double crochets. The number of rounds given in the chart is for reference. You can adjust the length according to your needs. After completing the final round, leave a 20 cm yarn tail, and cut the yarn. The rope is now crocheted. Next, sew it together. First, thread the beginning chain yarn tail onto a sewing needle. Sew on a pom-pom. Sew a few times at the elastic cord position. Secure it neatly and firmly. Tie off and weave in the ends. Then, thread the other end of the yarn tail onto a sewing needle. Find the edging position. Sew and secure it at one end. Pay attention to the neatness of the seam on the right side. Finally, tie off and weave in the ends. One side of the tie is now complete. Make and sew the other side in the same way. Up to this point, the hat tutorial is complete. Next, let's learn how to make the scarf. It includes the main fabric piece, the loop, and the bunny ears, these 3 parts. First, we'll learn how to make the main fabric piece of the scarf. There are 2 pieces in total. Both use the foundation chain method to start. Work back and forth along the starting chain. After completing the second piece, connect them together. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Start with a foundation chain. I've already prepared this one for you. The number of stitches is relatively small. The main focus is to demonstrate the method. Then, work the first row. Start with 3 chain stitches as the turning chain. Begin from the 5th stitch from the hook. Pick up the top half stitch, and correspondingly make a double crochet. After completing this, the first row is done. We will consider the side with the clearer texture as the right side. Continue to work the second row. Place the right side of the fabric facing up. Join a new yarn at the top of the previous row's turning chain. Make 1 chain stitch. Skip 2 stitches and make 1 bobble stitch pattern. Below, continue to skip 5 stitches and make another bobble stitch pattern. On both sides, use 2 chain stitches for the transition. Finish this row. After completing the last bobble stitch pattern, make 1 chain stitch, skip 2 stitches, join with a slip stitch in the last double crochet. Cut the yarn. The second row is completed. Continue to work the third row. Continue crocheting with the yarn from the first row. Make a beginning chain. Turn the work. Work the first stitch in the slip stitch position of the previous row. The next single crochet goes into the left stitch. Wrap around the chain. Follow the crochet method for the main part of the hat. Correspondingly, make single crochets and chains. Mind that the chain braid should be wrapped in. The last single crochet goes into the joining position. The third row is completed. For the following rows 4 to 10, continue to work back and forth while referring to the chart. The crochet method for the fourth row is similar to the 25th row of the hat's main part. Note that this is worked back and forth. Start by turning your work. Rows 5 to 10 are similar to the rows of the main part of the hat where you work the double crochet pattern. On the 10th row, you will need to make double crochets on the single crochets. Pay attention to the color chart for switching colors. After completing the 10th row, fasten off the yarn. Everyone, please complete this section. Next, I'll demonstrate the crochet method for the 11th row using a small sample. Place the wrong side of the piece facing you. The starting point is at the top. Join the yarn to the chain stitch corresponding to the first row's turning chain. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. In the same position, make 1 single crochet. Three chain stitches. Skip 3 stitches. Pick up the remaining 2 loops of the skipped chain and make 1 single crochet. Continue working in this manner. After completing the last single crochet, row 11 is done. For the following rows, continue to follow the chart. While crocheting, you will need to switch colors. Pay attention to the middle double crochet in the pattern on row 12. In the space created by the skipped chain stitches, pick up the remaining 2 loops and insert the hook to crochet. After completing the last row, fasten off the yarn in the same way. This completes the first main piece of the scarf. The second main piece of the scarf is crocheted in almost the same way as the first piece. However, do not cut the yarn after the last row. Here, I will demonstrate the method of joining the two pieces. Connect using the yarn from the end of the second piece. Here, I will demonstrate with a small sample. Align the wrong sides of the two pieces. Note that the direction of the bobble stitch pattern on the second row should be the same. Make sure they match up. Hold the piece without the yarn tail facing you. First, insert the hook into the edge turning chain of the first piece on row 10 and make a slip stitch. The oval-shaped slip stitch does not need to be pulled tight. Then, return to the second piece. Start from the second stitch and make a slip stitch. Note that the yarn should be on the left side of the hook. After completing the slip stitch, it will form a continuous braid. Continue making slip stitches on the first piece, skipping one stitch. Do the same on the other side, skipping one stitch as well. Pay attention to the direction of the hook insertion. Follow this method of skipping one stitch and making slip stitches to complete the row. You can also connect according to your own preference. Just make sure the fabric looks neat. The last stitch should be connected to the first piece. If it's not, that's okay too. Adjust the insertion point for the last two stitches. Make sure the fabric is connected flat and neatly. Then overlap the two pieces. Insert the hook into the corresponding sides and work a single crochet. Work about one single crochet per row. You can weave in the yarn tails at the same time. Pay attention to matching the row numbers on both sides as much as possible. If there are many yarn tails, you can also weave them in. After completing, check the stitch count. Try to match the pattern chart. Any remaining yarn tails here can be woven in on the wrong side, along the texture of the same color. You can also weave them into the fabric. When you reach the stitch position on the other side, join with a slip stitch using the same method. Start from the back piece. Continue to work single crochets when you reach the side piece. If you find weaving in the yarn tails unattractive, you can hide them inside beforehand. Continue to crochet the corresponding number of stitches. Once all the stitches are completed, pull a large loop and fasten off the yarn. Thread the yarn needle. Sew slightly at the beginning position. Try to make the seam look neat. Tie off and hide the yarn tail. For any unattractive yarn tails, pick them out and weave them in again. Everyone, complete this step. The connection is now complete. The main piece of the scarf is also done. Next, let's learn how to make the loops. It consists of two main pieces and the edging. The main pieces for the loops are identical. We will start from a foundation chain. Work back and forth. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific crochet method. First, make a foundation chain. The swatch is already started. Then, work the first row. Start with one chain as your beginning chain. From the second stitch from your hook, pick up the back loop and work a slip stitch in each stitch. That's the carrying yarn on the wrong side of the chain. Once completed, the first row is done. Continue with the second row. Start with one chain as your beginning chain. Turn your work. You can see that the slip stitches form a braid. Pick up the stitch closest to you. Work a slip stitch in this strand. We will refer to the strand closest to you on the fabric as the front loop. The second row is completed. Then, work the third row. Start with one chain as your beginning chain. Turn your work. Continue picking up the front loops and working slip stitches. The third row is completed. For the following rows, follow the same crochet method as rows 2 and 3. Each row starts with a chain stitch, then turn your work. Pick up the front loop of the slip stitch braid, and work a slip stitch. Continue until you complete the corresponding row. When counting rows, we consider the side where the starting chain yarn tail is on the left as the right side. The bottom braid is formed by the starting chain. Above that, there is a row of small horizontal bars. Then comes this ripple pattern. A row of horizontal bars represents one row. This ripple pattern also counts as one row. You can count these two types of textures to determine the row numbers. Count the rows based on these textures. The last row has this braid texture. At the end of the first fabric piece, cut the yarn. For the other ending, don't cut the yarn. Everyone finish it. After completing the main piece, we will crochet the edging. Then continue crocheting using the yarn from the end of the second main piece. Align the two main pieces. Here, you don't need to distinguish between the right and wrong sides. Make sure the last row with the braid texture faces you. Pick up and crochet single crochets along the side edges. Work the corresponding number of stitches evenly. Start with one chain as your beginning chain. Weave in the yarn tail as you go. Try to match the number of single crochets with the number of single crochets on the scarf main piece. Fasten off the yarn when done. Hide the yarn tails inside the fabric. Then, on the same side, attach the yarn to the other edge. Join with single crochets. After completing, leave a 20 cm tail, and fasten off the yarn. That completes the edging. Finally, take the end with the yarn tails, and sew it to the single crochet edge of the scarf main piece using a whip stitch. You can sew it on the right side of the puff stitch pattern. The specific side can be determined based on your wearing preference. For the swatch, choose any side. Thread the yarn tail through a darning needle. Pick up one stitch for each single crochet, and sew with a whip stitch. Make sure all single crochets face the right side. Pay attention to pulling tight. After completing, weave in the ends. After sewing, the main piece may have some wrinkles. This is normal. That concludes the explanation of the loop. Finally, let's learn how to make rabbit ears. Here, we have two rabbit ears, one long and one short. The crochet technique is similar to that of the hat's ears. The shorter ear has fewer rounds. The longer ear finishes with a few rounds of single crochet worked even. Everyone can follow the chart to crochet. After completing, leave a yarn tail at the end. Sew the short ear to the other side of the loop using a whip stitch. Crochet the edging with single crochets, and sew with a whip stitch. Sew the long ear to the other side of the main piece of the scarf using a whip stitch. When sewing, pay attention to pressing the opening of the ear flat along the yarn tail. Insert the hook into the corresponding single crochet stitch on the other side. Insert the ear above the beginning chain. Sew it together with the back stitch. Pay attention to inserting the hook into these 3 stitch positions at the same time. The method is similar to the previous whip stitch sewing. Everyone can complete the sewing. That's how you finish the rabbit ears. The scarf is also explained. Up to this point, the entire set is fully explained. If you have any unclear parts during the crocheting process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family. Support your handwork experience. Enjoy the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.